So let's talk a little bit about the early times of teaching in Wisconsin. What was the department like at that time? I think it had just become its own School of Social Work a couple of years before that. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, 1946.
Right.
It became an independent school, and they hired Art Miles, who had administrative experience in public welfare, had a PhD from the Chicago, I forget the exact name of the Chicago school.
Tell me a little bit about what was the campus like when you came?
Well, the campus, that was at the height of the GI Bill. And so the campus, there were Quonset huts right in the middle of the campus. The campus was very crowded. The campus was heavily older students because most of the GIs who came back were somewhat advanced, older than most of the general student body. Heavily male, experienced, people who've been out in the world with little patience for, you know, abstruse argumentation, so on and so forth. And it was very, very lively. The housing was very in short supply then. There had been no housing built during the war. And so in order to attract faculty, they had to make housing available. And so they built university houses. Oh, okay. That was the reason they built it. That was
the evolution of that. Okay.
And all of the new faculty, most of the new faculty lived at university houses. There were some people who lived elsewhere, but the whole university houses was filled of recent acquires to the university.
What was a class like? Did it have 5 students? Did it have 100 students?
No. We had students about, most classes were 12 to 15 students. And most of them, in Milwaukee, the largest percentage of them were women. I taught one course in Madison. I would come one day from Milwaukee to Madison, and I taught here. Here we had more men students in the class, and they were more difficult to deal with. I was teaching with Hubsey, you know, psychoanalytic ideology, id, ego, superego, conscious, preconscious, unconscious. They didn't want to hear it. First of all, they wanted to know, are there jobs available? And there were jobs available, a lot of jobs available. And what did they know in order to do the job? They wanted to know how to do it. They didn't want to know about theory. They didn't want to know about, you know, other interesting ideas that were the basis for the technology of what they're doing. They wanted to know how to do it.
Okay. And in some ways, this continues on to today to a degree, but maybe it was a little more pronounced.
Yeah. Well, they were
days.
in a hurry. See, they were like me. They were delayed in getting a profession, and they were delayed in getting their family started or even supporting their family, and they were anxious to get out and get a dollar, get a salary.